Hello everybody, welcome back to Jordan Talks Football. Massive breaking news and a huge blow for Liverpool as Diomande chooses PSG rather than Liverpool as his next club. And it looks as though things are advancing for PSG towards those final stages, with potentially around €110 million bid being enough to see Leipzig sell him to PSG. Obviously a big blow for Liverpool, who have been working on this Diomande deal for some time. Weeks and weeks now really, as we saw from the start. Liverpool have been pushing very hard for him, and he was our top target to replace Salah on that right wing position. But I have said from the start that ultimately it will come down to whether Diomande chooses to come to Liverpool. And obviously when you see the signs of everyone saying that personal terms are agreed and that Diomande is willing to come to Liverpool, you assume that that's probably going to be the case, with Liverpool having that first bid rejected, going to come back with the second bid. But ultimately, it looks as though in the end, Diomande has chosen to go to PSG, with them entering the race, getting personal terms agreed, and then him deciding ultimately to choose them over Liverpool, which is a big blow for Liverpool. As I said, we have been working on this deal for weeks and weeks now, pushing very hard. Fabrizio Romano and others saying the deal was getting towards 70% done, but ultimately, as is sometimes the case, the player has just chosen the other option. And Liverpool have got to accept that and continue to move quickly in this market. As we know, we have got a plethora of different options that we have been looking at according to reports. And ultimately, the silver lining surrounding this one is Bradley Barcola, who is at PSG and want away right now, playing second fiddle to Dembele, Doué and Kvaratskhelia anyway. PSG looking like they could sign Akliouche and Diomande as forward reinforcements for them. They've sold Gonzalo Ramos and are probably going to use some of that money to buy Akliouche and Diomande. And with Barcola already want away from the club according to reports, out of France, really annoyed about the lack of game time that he's getting, playing second fiddle to the forward line and feeling like he wants to play more. And in general, just looking a little bit disillusioned according to reports. Also, his agent unable to agree with extensions for PSG, and also having problems with them, according to reports as well. We could see a situation where, as I said in my previous video, there is a silver lining here where Diomande does end up going to PSG, as could have been the case the whole time. As I kept saying, we could end up missing out on Diomande because he just chooses to go to PSG and not Liverpool. But the silver lining would be that Barcola would definitely be allowed to leave PSG if they end up buying Diomande and Akliouche, who they were linked to yesterday. Everyone thinking that Akliouche could have been the Diomande replacement, but it looks as though they might get both of them. And in reality, if that is the case at PSG, Barcola is going to slip even further down the pecking order, and in reality he's going to get more and more annoyed about his position in the team by the looks of things. Obviously he's also in a similar position with France, where he's kind of coming off the bench, at least in the first game. He did start the second game and looked really, really good in that position on the left wing. But obviously Liverpool with a bit of a head scratcher and a conundrum now, because we do need a out-and-out right winger really to be in the squad. And obviously if we do bring in Barcola, Munoz, Barcola and Engamoa, Chiesa can all play on that right wing position. But the reality is, like people have been saying, none of them are out and out right wingers. They all prefer the left wing. But in my opinion, I think Iraola is going to cook on this one, and I can imagine that he'd probably get the most out of the players that he does get. Liverpool are clearly going to sign another forward in this area. As we've seen from the start of the summer, Liverpool are going to sign at least 2 new wingers. We already got Munoz through the door, but let's face it, he's more of a squad player. He's probably just going to be the replacement for Gakpo if Gakpo ends up leaving. But in reality, we're still probably going to sign someone like Barcola and another forward who's more of a right winger profile. And obviously, like I said, Iraola, he's the kind of manager that gets the best out of the players that he gets. He gets the best out of young players, and he just gets the best out of the teams that he has in general. I mean, if you look at how at Bournemouth last season, he developed Ryan, Krupi, Alex Scott, Semenyo before that, all players that were basically unknown, turned them into all absolutely great players in his system. And even though we have missed out on Diomande, and yes, it is disappointing after getting all that hype and all that build-up to potentially getting him, obviously, I think Iraola is going to do well with whoever he gets, because I trust the manager. I've seen how he plays for Bournemouth. He improves the players that he gets, and in reality, we are still going to get him some very, very top talents to work with. And in reality, when you look at the players that he's had previously, Ryan and Semenyo, particularly in that right wing area, they were basically completely unproven players that turned into, you know, good Premier League players at the very least, and actually great Premier League players when you look at where Semenyo ended up at Man City, and ended up doing really, really well for them so far. Ryan also looks fantastic for Brazil, could be an option for Liverpool as well. But in reality, obviously, the disappointment is there surrounding the Diomande deal. And after, seeing all the preamble, all the personal terms agreed talks, all of the pushing being sold by for Romano and everybody else, saying that Liverpool were basically their primary top of the list to get Diomande. But in the end, it looked as though PSG entered the race and he just chose PSG instead of Liverpool, which is hard to take. But ultimately, Liverpool need to move on quickly. And like I've been saying, this could be a silver lining in regards to Barcola, because we know that Liverpool have been absolutely obsessed with Barcola for years, ever since he was at Lyon. He's been a target for us for some time. And in reality, with Diomande and Akliouche going to PSG, he's going to be really, really annoyed probably about the lack of game time that he could potentially be getting now. He's already disillusioned with his role in the squad. He wants to be starting games, but he's not been starting ahead of Doué and Kvaratskhelia. And in reality, it looks as though now he could be on the move and Liverpool is the primary destination. We know Fabrizio Romano has been going on and on and on about Barcola. Barcola leaving PSG. He said it right early in the transfer window. And he's been continuing to say Liverpool want Barcola. Liverpool are linked with Barcola. We're talking about him non-stop. He's top of the list along with Diomande. If we miss out on Diomande, then we'll move quickly for Barcola, according to all the paper talk we're seeing today. Barcola continuously getting linked over and over and over and over again to Liverpool. And as we know, with the Diomande deal, these things don't get done until they get done. But in reality, Barcola would be a great addition for Liverpool. And if he does want to leave PSG, I think this is a deal that could get done for Liverpool and would be, in my opinion, a very, very good addition. If Diomande does go to PSG and they get Akliouche as well, you can imagine that Barcola, who's already annoyed about his game time, is going to get even more annoyed and could be an option as a replacement for missing out on Diomande. Obviously, a lot of people saying, like I've seen and I've also repeated on this channel, that Liverpool were wanting to get Diomande and Barcola, but it looks as though with Diomande choosing PSG, Barcola could be an option and somebody else now. As we know, we've already got Munoz through the door, who looks like an incredibly high work rate, fast, aggressive, physically dominant, the ability to press and defend kind of player. High work rate is the name of the game for Iraola. And I think in reality, whoever we get, they're probably going to fit Iraola's style of football and system as well as possible, because Iraola's clearly been brought in early in the window so he can have a hand in the profiles of players that he wants, as I've said numerous times. And I think bringing him in so early, he's going to go in and go, these are the kinds of profiles I want. I want high work rate. I want fast players that can make the difference, inside, outside wingers. These are all the profiles of players we've been linked with. Obviously, Munoz looks like a really great talent that could develop well under Iraola. Barcola would be a great addition in this regard as well. Obviously, missing out on Diomande is a blow, but I think Liverpool will be fine. And like I said, in reality, I think whoever we get, we're probably going to be doing a really, really good job next season. Because in reality, Iraola, let's be honest, he looks like a really great manager. He gets the best out of the players that he has. He took all these unknown players for Bournemouth and turned them into really good players, if not superstars. And at this point, I mean, why not Ryan from Bournemouth or Krupi? Bring a few Bournemouth players in for Iraola. Give him some players that he knows that he can get the best out of in his system. They could be options as well. But obviously, this is a disappointment surrounding Diomande. We've been seeing all the signs were positive for Liverpool, top of the race. And we knew that PSG were there. But I think it's just the case of once they entered negotiations with his agent, he just chose PSG and wanted to go there all along. Perhaps Perhaps Liverpool were being used as bait to get PSG to enter the race, which unfortunately does also happen. And this is the name of the game in transfers, unfortunately. We have seen Liverpool basically getting everything done according to reports. But in the end, we didn't put that second bid in. Probably because we knew that Diomande was going to choose PSG, so we didn't choose to put that second bid in reality. A little bit like the Caicedo situation that we saw for Liverpool a few years ago. So in reality, Liverpool will move on quickly from this. Barcola is probably the primary target now for a winger reinforcement. And we could see some other names being linked. Maybe Yankuba Minteh for 40 million. Honestly, I think that would be a pretty good signing. I know a lot of people are going, oh, Minteh, he's rubbish, he's not very good. But you have to remember that Iraola is the absolute master of getting the best out of players in his system. And Minteh would be available for 40 million, which is very cheap. You could probably go and buy him and Barcola. And all of a sudden, you've got Munoz, Minteh and Barcola and Ngamoa and Gakpo and Chiesa and Isak and Ekitike and Harvey Elliott, all of a sudden the squad looks pretty stacked. And if you think Iraola's probably going to get more out of the players he's already got because he's that kind of manager, all of a sudden things don't start to look so bad for Liverpool going into next season. But obviously it's still only June. We've got July and August to come yet. Things are going to hot up in this transfer window. And in reality, Liverpool are far from done. As always, guys, I do appreciate you watching. Let me know your thoughts about this Diomande situation. Are you disappointed? Do you think this means that Barcola will come to Liverpool now? Because it's very likely, in my opinion, that he moves on and Liverpool will be in the hot seat for him as well. Let's see how things develop. Like and subscribe, do the YouTube stuff, and also become a member if you want to support the channel. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.